911, what's your emergency?
Austin, Texas. August 2005. A college student vanishes after a night out. Her car is parked. Her phone is dead. Her mother drives 3 hours to find her. She breaks into an apartment. The lights are off. The air is thick. The bathroom door is locked from the outside. What she finds behind it will haunt this city forever. The night had been ordinary. That's what made it terrifying. Jennifer Cave had just landed a new job at a prestigious law firm in Austin. She was 21, radiant, and finally stepping into the life she'd been building toward. One class, one resume, one interview at a time. That night, she went out to celebrate. Drinks on 6th Street, laughter, a few blurry photos, and then silence. Her mother, Sharon Cave, noticed it first. Jennifer always checked in, always, especially after a night out. But by morning, there was no text, no call, no, "I made it home." Just silence. Jennifer was supposed to start work that day. She never showed up. By noon, Sharon was calling hospitals. By 3 p.m., she was calling jails. By 6, she was calling her ex-husband, Jim, and saying the words no parent ever wants to say. Something's wrong. They drove to Austin that night. No plan, just a mother's instinct and a father's dread. Jennifer had been out with a friend, Colton Pitonyak, a name Sharon barely remembered, a name that would soon be burned into every headline in Texas. The Orange Tree condos sat quiet under the August heat. Jennifer's car was parked outside. Her purse was inside. Her phone, her keys, everything but her. They knocked. No answer. They called the police. Officers came, knocked, and left. No warrant. No forced entry. "She's probably out," they said. But Sharon knew better. She begged Jim to break in. He did. The smell hit them first. Then the silence. Then the bathroom door, locked from the outside. Jim forced it open. And there she was. Colton Pitonyak was the kind of student parents bragged about. National Merit Scholar, top of his class in Arkansas, full ride to the University of Texas. He studied finance. He quoted Nietzsche. He wore button-downs and smiled easily. But behind the GPA and the charm was something else. Something darker. Something that didn't show up on transcripts. Jennifer Cave had met him through mutual friends. She wasn't dating him. She wasn't even close to him. But in Austin's tight college circles, people blurred. A night out could start with one group and end with another. That's how she ended up with Colton on August 16th, 2005. Jennifer was celebrating. She'd just landed a job at a law firm, her first real step toward stability after a few rocky semesters. She'd struggled with school, dropped out of Texas State, and was slowly rebuilding. That job meant everything. She was supposed to start the next morning. That night, she dressed up. Navy blouse, gold necklace. She texted her mom. She smiled in a photo. She went out. They hit 6th Street, Austin's neon artery of bars and music. Jennifer drank. Colton drank more. At some point, they left together. Back to his apartment at the Orange Tree condos, a place known for its student tenants and paper-thin walls. What happened next would never be fully known. There were no witnesses, no security footage, just a timeline stitched together from phone records, receipts, and blood. What's known is this: Jennifer never left that apartment alive. Colton would later claim he blacked out, that he was high, that he didn't remember. But the evidence would say otherwise. The next morning, Jennifer's phone stopped responding. Her car sat untouched. Her new job waited in silence. And Colton? He was still in the apartment. For hours, maybe longer. Long enough to clean, long enough to stage, long enough to call someone. That someone was Laura Hall. Laura Hall wasn't supposed to be part of this story. Not like this. She was a UT student too. Bright, artistic, unpredictable. She and Colton had a complicated history, sometimes friends, sometimes more, sometimes volatile. But when Colton called her after Jennifer's death, she didn't hesitate. She packed a bag. She drove to his apartment. And together, they vanished. The timeline was murky. What's known as this: Jennifer's body was still in the bathroom. The apartment reeked of bleach and blood. And Laura walked into it. She saw it. She stayed. They left Austin in Laura's green Cadillac, crossed into Mexico, used fake names, paid in cash. For 5 days, they were ghosts. Back home, the Cave family was reeling. Sharon had found her daughter's body. Jim had broken the door. The police were now chasing shadows, and the media was catching up. The headlines were brutal. Promising student wanted for murder. Body found in bathtub. Escape to Mexico. But beneath the shock was confusion. Who was Laura Hall? Why did she help him? Was she afraid, or was she complicit? In Piedras Negras, Mexican authorities found them. Colton was calm. Laura was defiant. They were arrested without incident. No resistance. No remorse. Back in Austin, the questions multiplied. What happened in that apartment? Why did Colton call Laura? Why did she come? Some said she was obsessed with him. Others said she was manipulated. But the evidence would show something colder. She helped clean. She helped flee. She helped hide. And Jennifer? She was still in the tub. Her body had been there for over 24 hours. Her family had found her. Not the police, not the suspect. Her family. The escape was over, but the unraveling had just begun. The Orange Tree condos were quiet when detectives returned. The sun was high, but the hallway outside Colton Pitonyak's unit felt colder than it should have. The door had already been breached by Jennifer's father. The scene inside was no longer untouched, but it was unforgettable. The smell of bleach clung to the air like guilt. The bathroom door, once locked from the outside, now hung open. Inside, the tub was stained with blood. Jennifer's body lay partially submerged, her skin pale, her limbs stiff. She had been shot once, in the arm, the bullet traveling into her chest, piercing her heart. But that wasn't all. She had been stabbed multiple times. Her head and hands had been removed. The dismemberment was crude, panicked. A hacksaw lay nearby, its teeth rusted with blood. Towels soaked in bleach were stuffed into a trash bag. The floor was slick with a mixture of water, blood, and cleaning fluid. It wasn't just a murder scene. It was a failed erasure. On the counter sat her makeup bag, untouched. Her clothes were folded neatly beside the tub. Her purse was still in the living room. Her phone, her keys, everything she would have taken with her, left behind. Detectives cataloged the evidence. Blood spatter patterns, drag marks, a bullet casing, a knife, a saw, a bottle of tequila, a laptop with internet searches that chilled the room. How to dismember a body. How long does it take to bleed out? How to clean up blood. Colton's fingerprints were everywhere. So were Laura Hall's. The timeline began to take shape. Jennifer and Colton had returned from 6th Street late that night. Neighbors heard nothing. No screams, no gunshot, just silence. At some point, she was killed. At some point after that, Colton called Laura. They stayed in the apartment for hours, maybe longer, long enough to try to clean, long enough to plan an escape, long enough to leave Jennifer behind like a discarded object. But the scene told a different story, one of chaos, of fear, of something spiraling out of control. The medical examiner would later confirm what Sharon Cave already knew in her bones. Jennifer had died quickly, but what happened after was anything but merciful. The apartment was sealed, the evidence bagged. The story was no longer just a disappearance. It was a homicide. And the suspects were already across the border. The border town of Piedras Negras was hot, dusty, and indifferent. It had seen fugitives before, but this one was different. Colton Pitonyak and Laura Hall had been missing for 5 days. The FBI was involved. U.S. Marshals were tracking leads. The media was circling, and Jennifer Cave's family was still reeling from the discovery they had made themselves. Her body, her blood, her silence. The arrest came quietly. Mexican authorities found them in a small hotel. No resistance, no weapons. Just 2 college students sitting in a room that smelled of cigarettes and fear. Colton was calm. Laura was unreadable. They were taken into custody and handed over to U.S. officials. Back in Austin, the news broke like a thunderclap. Murder suspect captured in Mexico. Escape ends in arrest. Justice begins. But justice wasn't simple. Colton said nothing. No confession, no apology, no explanation. Laura was more vocal, but her words were cryptic. She claimed she was scared, that she didn't know what had happened, that she was just trying to help. Investigators weren't convinced. The car they'd used to flee had blood in the trunk. Laura's fingerprints were in the apartment. Witnesses said she'd helped buy cleaning supplies, that she'd joked about the murder, that she'd told someone he did something really bad. The silence between them was telling. No eye contact, no shared defense. Just 2 people bound by a crime and unraveling in different directions. Colton was charged with murder. Laura was charged with hindering apprehension and tampering with evidence. The trials would come later. But the arrest marked a shift, from horror to reckoning, from questions to answers. Jennifer's family watched the footage of Colton being led in handcuffs. His face was blank, his eyes downcast. He looked like a student caught cheating on a test, not a man accused of dismembering a woman in his bathroom. Laura followed days later. Her expression was harder to read. Defiant, detached, maybe scared, maybe something else. The escape was over. The chase had ended. But the story was just beginning. Because the evidence was waiting. The timeline was fractured. And the truth, whatever it was, had to be pieced together from blood, bleach, and silence. The courtroom was cold, not in temperature, but in tone, the kind of cold that settles into your spine when truth and horror sit side by side. Colton Pitonyak entered in a suit, clean-shaven, calm. He looked more like a student defending a thesis than a man on trial for murder. But the jury saw the photos. They saw the tub, the blood, the saw, the bullet, the bleach, the silence. The prosecution didn't need theatrics. The evidence spoke for itself. They laid out the timeline with surgical precision. Jennifer and Colton returned to his apartment after a night out. At some point, she was shot. At some point after that, she was stabbed, dismembered, left in the tub, her clothes folded, her makeup untouched. They showed the internet searches. How to dismember a body. How to clean up blood. How long does it take to bleed out? They showed the receipts, cleaning supplies, bleach, trash bags, a hacksaw. They showed the photos, Jennifer's body, the bathroom, the blood trail, the knife. And then they showed the silence. Colton never called 911. Never told anyone, never left a note. He called Laura Hall. He cleaned, he fled. The defense argued diminished capacity. They said he was high, that he didn't remember, that he panicked, that he wasn't a monster, just a broken kid who made a terrible mistake. But the jury didn't see panic. They saw planning. They saw control. They saw a man who had time to clean, to flee, to hide, but not to help. Jennifer's family sat in the front row every day. Sharon Cave never looked away, not during the photos, not during the autopsy report, not during the defense's pleas. She wanted the jury to see what she saw, not just a crime, but a daughter, a life, a future stolen and staged like a scene from a horror film. When the verdict came, the room held its breath. Guilty. Colton Pitonyak was sentenced to 55 years in prison, no parole for at least 28. He showed no emotion, no tears, no apology, just the same blank stare he'd worn since the day he was arrested. But the story wasn't over, because Laura Hall, the girl in the passenger seat, was about to take the stand. Laura Hall walked into court with her chin raised, not defiant, not apologetic, just unreadable. Her trial was smaller, less press, less spectacle, but for Jennifer Cave's family, it was just as important, because Laura wasn't just the girl who helped Colton flee. She was the girl who saw the aftermath, who stood in the apartment, who stayed. She was charged with hindering apprehension and tampering with evidence. The prosecution argued she helped clean, helped plan, helped hide. That she knew what Colton had done and chose to protect him. Witnesses testified that Laura had joked about the murder, that she told friends he did something really bad, that she'd bought supplies, that she'd driven the getaway car. The defense painted her as a scared girl, manipulated, in shock, that she didn't know what she was walking into, that she panicked, that she ran. But the jury saw the blood in her trunk, the fingerprints in the apartment, the silence. They saw a second betrayal. Jennifer's mother, Sharon, sat through every minute. She didn't flinch when the photos were shown again. She didn't blink when Laura's voice cracked on the stand. She just watched. Because this wasn't just about justice. It was about truth. Laura was convicted, sentenced to 5 years. She served less than 4. For Sharon, it wasn't enough. She walked into that apartment. The courtroom was silent when Sharon Cave stood to speak. Not the kind of silence that comes from order, but the kind that comes from gravity, from grief, from the weight of a mother who had seen too much. She walked to the podium slowly, her hands trembling, but her voice steady. The victim impact statement was her moment, not to accuse, not to rage, but to speak for Jennifer. To give voice to the girl who had been left in a bathtub, alone, discarded, erased. "You took my baby girl," she said. "You left her like trash. You ran. You hid. And you never said sorry." Her words didn't echo. They landed, heavy, final. She described Jennifer's laugh, her dreams, her first job, her favorite songs, the way she always called after a night out, the way she never got to start that job, the way Sharon had to find her. Not the police, not the system. Her. She described the bathroom, the door, the smell, the silence. And then she described the aftermath, the sleepless nights, the flashbacks, the way she couldn't walk past a bathtub without seeing her daughter, the way she couldn't hear bleach being poured without flinching, the way her life had been split into 2 timelines. Before Jennifer died, and after. Colton Pitonyak sat motionless. No apology, no reaction, just the same blank stare. Laura Hall had already been sentenced. She wasn't in the room, but Sharon spoke to her too. "You saw her," she said. "You walked into that apartment. You saw what he did, and you chose to help him." The judge didn't interrupt. The jury didn't move. The room didn't breathe. Because this wasn't just a statement, it was a reckoning. Sharon Cave didn't stop at grief. She turned it into action. She began advocating for victim rights, for families who had to navigate the justice system alone, for parents who had to become detectives, for daughters who never got to come home. She spoke at conferences. She met with lawmakers. She pushed for change. But nothing brought Jennifer back. The trial ended. The courtroom emptied. Colton went to prison. And Sharon went home. To a house that still held Jennifer's clothes, her books, her voice. The story was over, but the echo remained. Because some crimes don't end with a verdict. They end with a mother's voice. And that voice, clear, broken, relentless, is what justice sounds like when the system runs out of words. Years later, Sharon Cave still remembers the sound of the bathroom door unlocking, not the creak, not the weight, but the silence behind it. That moment when the door gave way and the world changed never left her. She remembers the smell, the bleach, the blood, the way Jennifer's body lay in the tub as if placed there by someone who didn't know how to feel. She remembers the towels, the folded clothes, the untouched makeup bag, the way everything looked like it had been paused mid-life. She remembers the drive to Austin, the calls to hospitals, the calls to jails, the moment she said, "Something's wrong," and knew it was already too late. Jennifer Cave was 21. She had just landed a job. She had just smiled in a photo. She had just texted her mom. And then she was gone. Colton Pitonyak remains in prison. His appeals have failed. His sentence stands. Laura Hall is free. She served her time. She moved on. But Sharon didn't. Because grief doesn't end with a verdict. It doesn't fade with time. It just changes shape. Sharon turned her pain into purpose. She spoke at victim advocacy events. She pushed for reforms that would help families like hers, who had to break down doors, who had to find their children themselves. But at night, when the house is quiet, she still hears the door, still sees the tub, still feels the weight of a silence that should never have existed. Jennifer's room remains untouched. Her books, her clothes, her voice, preserved in voicemails, in memories, in the way her mother still says her name. The orange tree. Condos have new tenants now. The bathroom has been cleaned, the walls repainted, but the story remains. In court records, in news archives, in the hearts of those who knew her, and in the quiet moments when the world forgets and the headlines fade. Sharon remembers. Because some doors, once opened, never truly close.